Acts 16. And here we are now in Paul's second missionary journey. And he's going to be starting going out with Silas, and then we're going to find out Timothy. He had three as they went forward in the first missionary journey. Now, at the beginning of this one, we also have three going on this missionary journey. Remembering that it was because of disagreements regarding John Mark and whether or not to include him or not, that you had the division that happened. And yet, with the division dealing with sinful human beings, the Lord made blessings in his way of seeing. At a church I was at a long time ago, the church back in the 1930s, I think, split over, they were basically had a lot of hard feelings that happened. Looking at today, you can see how God worked through this hard feelings, and we're going to split to making more ministry, more work, more blessings of the word of the Lord in that city. And so the same thing here. Not saying that the decision was right to begin with, but the Lord was able to work through them to cause his glory, to bring that forward for us. So we come to the beginning of Paul's missionary journey and the addition of Timothy. 16 verse 1. Paul came also to Derbe and to Lystra. A disciple was there named Timothy. And yes, this is the Timothy of 1 Timothy and 2 Timothy, who was with Paul in many of his journeys. Timothy, the son of a Jewish woman who was a believer, but his father was a Greek. Now, the fact that a Jewish woman, a believer, and a Greek very much makes the implication the father was not a believer of what was going of Jesus Christ. So you had this division happening and taking place. And Timothy, verse 2, was well spoken of by the brothers at Lystra and Iconium. So not only was he a disciple, a follower of what the Lord had given, but also people spoke well of him and what he would do and what was going on. So Paul wanted Timothy to accompany him. Awesome. So now you have the three as they go forward. And he took him and circumcised him because of the Jews who were in those places, for they all knew that his father was a Greek. And they're going to go to these places. There was already this information of what was going to happen. Now, something very key right here, because the decision in Christian freedom to be circumcised here, this was done very specifically so that when they would go and when they would be sharing the decision of the Jerusalem Council, when they would be going forward, what would happen is this would not be an obstacle to the sharing of the word. But this was Christian freedom to allow that to happen. If we go to Galatians 2, verse 1 through 5, we find where then Paul refuses to circumcise Titus because it was being required of him for salvation. So you can see very much when something additional is being required for salvation, no. It was given to Christian freedom. Sometimes I give up my freedoms for somebody else, for them to hear the gospel message that the Lord has given and granted to me. So that's where they make this decision, so that the word is heard more easily and readily as they go forward. Verse 4. As they went on their way through the cities, they delivered to them for observance the decisions that had been reached by the apostles and elders who were in Jerusalem. So part of this missionary journey was to go to those cities. There's a lot more that'll happen. We'll get to that. But they're going to these cities, intending, we went here before, and now we're going to share what the Jerusalem Council gave. And so kind of spreading this further where they had been in order to eliminate the controversy that had happened in Antioch, so it might not happen at these churches as well. And then lastly, verse 5. So the churches were strengthened in the faith and increased in numbers daily. And what was the result? Faith became stronger. More people heard. And you can see it was the right decision by Paul and Timothy to give up that freedom as Timothy was circumcised, because now more were readily able to hear the word, giving up our freedom sometimes out of concern for another.